right, so good morning. I hope you enjoyed the extra 30 minutes of sleep and getting ready for the day. Nothing big happening today, other than you're all here at the time that we're supposed to be here. Tomorrow morning is a little bit different. We're going to be starting at 10 a.m. Same thing with next Wednesday. We're going to be starting at 10 a.m. because we have meetups on both those evenings. So tomorrow evening, the meetup is going to be for Chicago Veteran Developers Hack Night. Now, I would say, let's put it this way. The last meetup that we had for Chicago Veteran Developers, I was the only civilian there. So you will be among friends and things of that nature. Let's take a look at who's coming, just so I can see who's on the list. And we can see like who's related to Code Platoon in some way and other people that you may want to talk to. So Bill Cable's your mentor, right? Bill works at Pivotal Labs. This person here I recognize. She is not a military vet, but she works at Innova as a technical recruiter. So she's the first line of defense if you want to talk to her about positions that are available there. We do have one Alpha Platoon grad who's working there right now and doing very well. I work with her. She was in Delta. Who else? I don't recognize anybody else. Nicole, as you know, is works at A Flight, Marine Corps vet. Anybody else that I see? Who's this guy? I don't know who this guy is. Bonaro, I've met once or twice. He's I think a Marine Corps vet as well, and he went to the Northwestern coding boot camp and evidently learned nothing. But am I recording? I think I am recording. Oh well, sorry Northwestern.
Who's that Eric guy?
What's that? I don't know Eric.
Oh, okay. I think he added me on.
Cool. And then Scott, as you know, is a Bravo Platoon grad working at A Flight right now. So you can kind of see it's like half people related to Code Platoon in some way and half not. Mostly people that are not related to Code Platoon in any way. I'm going to be going over like what I taught at Deloitte. So if you wanted to see what I was doing that day, we're just going to be going over that tomorrow. It's all stuff that you know, except for the Amazon Web Services portion right at the beginning. Other than that, it's just kind of good to get some review about like, what's Git? What's, how do I do basic things in Ruby? What's FizzBuzz? Just, you should be able to get FizzBuzz out in like less than 10 seconds. But I will say, like, and I'll talk about this more again tomorrow, but I did interview a senior developer one time who I asked to do FizzBuzz and he couldn't do it. And they say that 99.5% of the applicants cannot do FizzBuzz, which is if you print out the numbers between 1 and any range. If it's divisible by 3, you replace it with Fizz. Divisible by 5, you replace it with Buzz. Divisible by 3 and 5, you replace it with FizzBuzz. So it's just replacing numbers and things like that. They say 99.5% of people cannot actually solve it. And granted, the applicant pool is very, very large, so I'm pretty certain it's probably right. But if you go into a coding interview and you can't do FizzBuzz, I'll be disappointed. Other than that, on Thursday, I want everyone to have at least 2 to 3 final project ideas so that we can just kind of get them all out and we can vote on it. And then on Friday, we're going to have our Beyond Tech number 7 of like, once you get your job and how do you negotiate a salary? Because I know from what I've been told, the military, you have absolutely no control over your pay. Once you reach a certain rank, then you get X number of dollars. You cannot negotiate that up and down. You can create a sign-on bonus or a leaving bonus or a re-upping bonus or something like that. But most of the time, your pay is stagnant, and that's not the way that it is here. That's how I was able to, and I'll talk about how I was able to go from $55,000, which was my first offer, to what I eventually got. So with that, let's start with React. I assume news site 1 went okay, because we did go over all of it yesterday. So I did see some people working on news site 2. I see 1 pull request, so let's see who did that. While I'm doing that, I will just take a look at some pull requests from last night. And so I just have Raymond doing news site 2. So this morning I'm going to do news site 2, and pending time and interest, we can do news site 3. It might be too much information all at one time, so we'll leave it up to you. So news site 1, I'm going to just grab some people's code. Yeah, you got to push your code up. And we're going to start with that, and we're going to just do news site 2, and we'll talk through everything just so we're all exactly on the same page. So by the end of today, I hope to see, let's cd into code Platoon, go into my React folder, new site 2. I'm going just to do npm start. So by today, I hope to have it look a little bit nicer. So I want to have a bootstrapped navbar up at the top, so that doesn't look as terrible as it did yesterday. We're going to have one specific page for us today with all of these different, all of these linking to different places. We'll probably go to just /articles/ this particular number. I probably have to fix that. And then so we'll have, it looks like we're going to have a home page, and then we're going to have an article page with the header, the created date, the byline, the image if it's there, and then some of the basically the abstract that's going to go here on the bottom. So again, we're just making it look a little bit nicer. We're building incrementally to get to the final thing. The final thing is going to be like where you can log in and log out. We can post data to a database, but it's really just going to be a file. Yeah, and everything will just kind of work. But by the end of today, we want to get to this point. I'm going to get a decent starting point. So does anybody mind if I use their, Aaron, do you mind if I use your solution news one?
It's not the best, but go
Okay,
ahead.
let's go for that. Let's see. All right. Did you push up the node modules? It does not look like it, so that's good. So we have article teaser, and nav. Okay.
Yeah, I made a commit and then I made the push one.
Okay.
So
is it okay to use yours, or do you want me to use somebody else?
use somebody else.
Okay. Raymond, we're going to grab yours in that case. All right, let's see how many lines you added. So 9,000 lines, which means that you pushed up something that I don't need to use. Yeah, why not? Let's just clone this down. Just grab all of this code. Oops.
You don't want us to add all the files,
Yeah, don't add all the files.
so just
Just the ones that you've changed.
okay.
I mean, you can put them all up if you want to, but then when I clone it down, I also have to clone down all the npm modules, which take forever.
Okay.
It's easier for me just to install it on my computer rather than just downloading all of them. So cd into new site 1. I'm going to git co or checkout. I'm going to go to Ray branch. All right. I'm going to do npm install on Ray branch, npm install here, and kind of see where Raymond was yesterday, because we need his code in order to run into today's code. So while that's running, let's take a look at new site 2.
What gives you everything? Is that when you hit git add space dot?
Git add space dot will say add everything at this particular point, rather than if you do git add and then a specific file name or a specific folder. So like I said, each day is going to build on the previous day's worth of code. So we're going to create one new component, 2 pages, and a routing system. So there's quite a bit of code that's happening between new site 1 and 2. So a lot of this is already been written for you in this particular challenge. A lot of it is going to rely on your previous day's code. So we're going to copy over basically all of the components from new site 1 into source components of this project. So while this is still going, I'm going to clone down new site number 2. We're here. Let's do npm start to see where we're starting with Ray's branch, and then we'll go on to getting everything running. So localhost 3000. All right, so everything looks like the way that we expect. Let's make sure that all of the functionality is still there. So if I click on opinion and world, all of that stuff does show up. If I click on this, it'll give me the ID number. Okay, everything looks good to me. So this is a good starting point for us. We kill this, and we're going to just start moving things over. So the idea was I have 2 folders. Let me just go to my desktop, go to new site 2, source, components, and as of right now, I have components, just article list. I want to grab all the old ones from yesterday, so I'm going to grab article, article teaser, and nav, and just dump it in its place right here. Now, I'm going to kind of get us started here. Let's go back over to this point, npm install, and then npm start. While this is going on, I'm going to, sorry if this is making people sick. I want to rename a few things. So the first thing is when I go inside of my components, there is something called nav. Nav was like what we decided to name this particular navbar. I'm going to just let you know ahead of time that in Bootstrap, nav is a protected class because so let's take a look at Bootstrap Nav React. So you can see I can just grab all of this particular code right over here. And then it will create like a Bootstrap example a little bit like this. Just like Bootstrap was available as like an open source JavaScript, CSS, and HTML library, same thing applies here. They made Bootstrap available for React to make it look really good, really, really fast. Now what you'll notice is this is the code that corresponds with this particular navbar example. And you'll see that nav is right here. So because nav is something that Bootstrap is going to be using at a later date, I'm probably going to need to rename my own navigation bar so that I'm not using the protected class of nav. With that, I'm going to just rename all of nav as app nav or something like that, or application navigation or navigation. I'm just going to call it app nav for now. So I'm going to rename this folder as app nav and then rename all of the files as well. So rename this as appnav.js. Do this for the test, appnav test. This is kind of problematic. I'm going to just change all of this stuff here. So anytime that I see the word nav, I want to replace it with appnav so that I'm not using the protected class. That's all I'm doing here. So I believe I've changed all instances of nav for this particular one. If I go here, same thing. It looks like I'm still using nav, like all of this stuff. So I'm going to change all of these navs to appnav. That should be good. Who's calling in? Let's bring in Sharif. From there, after I've renamed nav to appnav because I don't want to use the same thing as Bootstrap, other places are also using appnav, also using nav to begin with. So we're going to look through each one of these lines of each one of these components and make sure that we're not using the nav class anywhere. So I don't believe it's here. I don't think it's inside of article. So let's take a look at nav. There's no nav inside of here, so we're good to go. Take a look at article list. Maybe article list is using nav. I don't see it. I think this is the new thing that we're using. Do I see nav on the page? I do not. Take a look at article teaser. Is there a nav over here? I don't see it here, and I don't see it here. I think it was just the navigation itself, like the component itself, and then app.js. So if you take a look at app.js, right now it's still saying that I'm importing nav from this particular thing. And since nav is a protected class from Bootstrap, I'm just going to rename it as appnav. All right, so let's look for the word nav on the page. Looks like right here we have appnav again. So if all goes well, I should be able to run this thing. Okay, so there's an issue. It says module not found in Bootstrap CSS, but I think that's a different issue. Let's move app.js from the first one to the second one. Also going to move this app.js, copy it, and move it into my new site number 2. So new site 2, source, and then app.js. I'm going to replace this whole thing here. All right, let's see if it compiles correctly. All right, it fails to compile, module not found, component nav.js, that's okay. I think I just have to replace this again because I copied it over. See if this runs now. Failed to compile, module not found, Bootstrap. Okay, so it looks like I need Bootstrap in something. Let's take a look where Bootstrap is called. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here that I probably don't need. So real quick, just so we can get something on the page, what are you thinking? Like, what do you think the issue is based off of this?
Need to import Bootstrap.
I probably need to import Bootstrap. It says module not found. Like, I can't find Bootstrap. You said you wanted Bootstrap, and I can't find it. I'm guessing one of my components somewhere is going to be using Bootstrap. Probably this article list that's coming out somewhere. Where is it? All right. So I'm just going to Google this, module not found, and then I'll get a really fast answer. How to import Bootstrap. All right, all right.
Should have it in the directions for the new site 2.
New site 2. All right, let's take a look. Might go off script. All right, so I did number 3. Okay, and it blows up. It says add React Bootstrap to the code base using the instructions we've got here. So create React app has Bootstrap somewhere on here. All right, it seems pretty simple. All we need to do is just npm install it. So I'm going to kill this server really fast, install this, and then go back to the documentation. Import Bootstrap CSS and optionally the CSS theme at the beginning of your source.index file. All right, so seems pretty simple. So I'm going to use npm to install it. So I'm going to call out to npm saying, like, everything that I need for Bootstrap 3, install it into my node modules. Then because index.js is my main entry point right over here, and then it loads app, I'm just going to, looks like import Bootstrap CSS, and I'll bring in the theme as well. Once this finishes, I believe I can run npm start, and then we'll see exactly the same thing that we saw yesterday. All right, so it looks like we have everything exactly the same as yesterday. Looks good to me. Let's just verify all the functionality is still there. The largest part, one of the biggest issues with new site 2 and getting everything set up is just making sure that everything works from the day before. So I could type in opinion, world, and then I get the ID number. Everything looks good to me. All right, so at the moment, we have the A link in our article teaser. So this is the article teaser component with this huge H1 that we've got here. It basically appends a hashtag at the end when I click on it. So if I just go back to my localhost 3000 and I click on this link, all it does is it appends a hashtag. And instead, what we need to do is we need to make a actual route for it. So we're going to modify our on-click really fast. So if we go inside of our app.js, and we go to our article teaser, there's an article teaser that says handle title click. All right, I'm back. Let me continue. So I'm still recording. Present my entire screen. All right, now we're back. I don't know what happened. We just got disconnected. Let's go back to where we were. So we have two things that we need to take care of. One is this article teaser right now. You can kind of see that all I'm doing is console logging. I know I'm going to need to have some action later down the road so that it actually links to different pages. Second, when I go to the article teaser itself, you can see that my href is just sending me to a hashtag. And then I have an on-click that doesn't really do too much. So what I'm going to do, because remember, an on-click, on-change, on-focus loss, on-blur, or something like that, these are all event handlers. So when I click on that, it captures an event, the entire event object of what's happened on the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change what I've got, this on-click. So instead of it just doing console logging stuff out to the screen, I'm going to change this to look a little something like this. To fix up some of the spacing, I think that should do it. Let's see what we've got. So on the click, it saves the entire event of what I've done. So first things first, it prevents the default from happening. It prevents me from going to hashtag. And then from there, it's going to do the same thing, which is just this.props.handle title click this.props ID. The only thing I'm doing is I'm preventing this, the default from happening. I just added one tiny little line. So that's going to prevent the adding the little hash to the URL. If all goes well, I can go back to localhost 3000. Everything will render correctly. The good part about React is it will let you know if it blows up right away. And if I click here, I won't get that hashtag. And it'll continue to just give me what I want, but it won't append the hashtag to the end. So that's the first thing. Second, let's take a look at article list. So article list is this brand new React component that we brought in today, just to list out all the articles on the home page. Our job is to basically create the content that this particular component is going to render and make sure that the props that you're passing in are being handled appropriately. So an article list is going to take two things, and this is also in the curriculum. So it's going to take two things. One is an array of articles, and then two is handle title click, which is a function that you're going to pass in. So the article list is going to receive a list of articles. So we're going to map over all of these and create an array of article teasers. So let's start that one more time over. So on our main page, we just have our navigation, and then we just want a bunch of, more or less just like an article list to show up. So I'm going to get rid of all of this code. Maybe I'll put it to the side so I don't forget about it. All this potentially useful code or something. And I want to create myself this article list that shows up. So the first thing first, I know I need to bring in article list. And I know I need to pass in some properties. The README tells me that it needs to take in an array of article objects. So maybe articles equals something. And then a handle title click. Handle title click, which is going to equal some function. It's going to be an anonymous function that does something. So how do I get access to all the articles that I need to pass in? I need every single article.
You need to pass in the variable you're using for the JSON of articles.
Cool. All right. Which one is that? I agree with you. You're definitely right.
So it looks like it's going to be news.
Yeah, that's it. So if you take a look at line 2, it says import news from data news.json. So let's just jump into news.json and see what we get. So it's located here. Maybe in sidebar. It's located right here under the data folder. It's just an array of objects. Seems pretty simple. So we'll just pass that in, and we'll just do, I think it's just news, right? Capital N news, because we said we're going to import news as news. All right, so handle title click, it doesn't look like it's going to do too much either. For now, we'll just say we're going to take, maybe we'll take like an ID or something like that, and we'll just console log ID out to the screen. Cool. All right, so now we're inside of our article list. We have a whole bunch of stuff that's available to us. We have all these articles, and we have this particular thing called handle title click. I don't know, how do I remotely get started with this?
What's your goal?
My goal is to show a list of articles on the page, on the homepage. Then I have a component called article list that takes in articles and also a handle title click, which is just going to console log something for right now.
Map over the news.
I do have to map over the news, and then what am I going to be doing inside of there?
You'll be pulling out the title of the article.
True. So an article list, so think about if we go back to, if you remember the full solution, the home page had a list of articles, and they were all like links that would take us to other places. So it was all a bunch of article teasers. So, and inside of app.js, which is my main entry point, I'm going to create an article list component, which is going to return me a bunch of article teaser components from there. So inside of this render here, or somehow inside of article list, I need to create a bunch of article teasers. So I guess how do I get started? Because I have this .props.articles, and I have this .props.handle title click.
Add some props from articles to article teaser.
Okay, so how do I do that here?
Render the article teaser.
Sure. So we'll just do we'll just call this all article teasers or something like that. I'm going to create myself a custom method. Maybe I'll do all article teasers. And then you're saying I'm going to do this .props .articles.map, which is going to take in an anonymous function, if I'm not mistaken. Is it something like this?
You're gonna have the article elements in its index.
Okay. I could be wrong. I'm not exactly sure on this syntax. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but I'm not positive. Return article teaser, something like that. And then an article teaser takes in, it looks like it needs a handle title click, a title, and a created date. All right, so maybe I need to do title equals
Article dot.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
Article dot title.
Title, you're correct. So I have created date. Then created date is going to be capital D. If we take a look inside of news.json, it looks like there's a created underscore date that we can use. And then finally, it's expecting a handle title click. And a handle title click was passed from app.js into article list. So we're going to do handle title click. This dot props dot handle title click. How do people feel about that? Let's see if it works. All right, so we have a whole bunch of errors, and we can fix this up. So number one, it says article teaser is defined but never used inside of app.js. So if you take a look inside of app.js, it says article teaser is defined here on line 5, but never used anywhere else on the page. So we can probably get rid of this. So it'll automatically refresh. Article is defined but never used. No worries. Same thing over here. Like we removed most of that stuff when we took it out. So we can get rid of this here. And finally, we have the actual error. Article list is not defined in app.js. Pretty simple. We can just do import article list from components, article list.js. Let's see what we've got. So it looks like all article teasers is not defined. Okay. So if you take a look inside of here, it just says all article teasers is not an actual thing. So I have to invoke it because it was looking for a variable. Instead, I have a method that I need to invoke. Let's see if this works. All right, same issue. All article teasers is not correct.
Can you just
What's that?
I was gonna say, can you just throw that whole line of code, that whole logic into the render function, and then just set that equal to a variable? And
You could. That is something that we could do. So Aaron's recommendation is let's just take all of the code. It's not a bad idea. Let's do let this equal this thing here and put it in its place. And I can comment this out for now. And you just said something like that.
Yeah.
I believe this could work, and it does. There we have all of the things that are coming out. Personally, if you're going to do a ton of logic, I prefer to put it in other ones. So you do have a legitimate point, but it's like, what if you're doing more than one calculation? Then the render gets really, really big, and you don't want to have everything in one place. So I can get rid of this. I was trying to invoke it a little bit earlier, but it was still broken, and Raymond called it out. What was the issue with it? I got to put this in front of it. Okay, so this refers to the entire article list. All article teasers method lives on it. We get here, and everything's broken. Let's see, there's no issues here. Maybe it's this dot all article teasers without invoking. Does anyone see what's going on?
I think you might need to put the return, like the return you might have to put that inside of a parentheses, that return block there. So I don't know.
Just bind it or use a fat arrow function.
I am using a fat arrow function.
You don't need to bind.
Well, I'm not passing anything. Oh, I do need to bind this. That's not it. What is going on? Read constructor.
Since you have tags in that return statement, do you have to put that in parentheses?
I don't believe so. Well, I'm going off script a little bit. Let's go back on script because I wanted to see if I can get around not doing the script stuff, but let's go back on script. So we talked about everything that an article list was going to need. Let's go back to Aaron's one because we know it's going to work and we can figure out why this is broken a little bit later. I'm just going to have all the calculations happen in the render for right now, just so that we can see something show up on the page. As of right now, we have this nav component, and if all goes well, I can click on each one of these, and then they will give me not the ID number. So something is happening here. I just want to make sure that I'm actually able to get the ID number before we move forward. On top of that, It says each child in an array should have a unique key property. So at that, I think we just need to pass in a key equals index. And then handle title click is going to be this.props.handle title click. And I believe I need to pass in the index right over here. I think that will do it. Uh-oh. This.props.handle title click is not a function at onClick. Oh, I think it's okay. Let's take a look. Teaser. It's an onClick, an event. This.props.id. So it looks like I need to pass in ID into here. Right, so everything comes up, no issues. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we're able to get that. It looks like if you take a look at the article list, it has a handle title click that's being passed down. So I'm not using it inside of article list, but I am using it inside of article teaser.js. If you take a look inside of article teaser and you take a look at when on this onClick, an event's happening. And I'm just going to prevent the default from happening and then pass up the ID up a little bit later. So it looks like handle title click requires something called this.props.id. So I was like, okay, that means whatever is passing down properties from one component into another needs to have an ID property that's there. And that's here on line 8. So that's why I knew I had to put that in there. All right, let's talk about a new concept. We're going to talk about React Router. So let's take a look at React Router. So when we were doing things inside of, do you remember when we were doing stuff with Rails, we had everything inside of routes.rb. So all of our code for all, like we said, whenever anyone makes a GET request to whatever URI at the very end, I'm going to send them to this controller and this particular method. Similarly, React has something similar called React Router. It's an open source library that's used to control like how to page something in what's called an SPA, a single page app. So we're going to load components based off of URL paths. What we're going to do is first just install it by running npm install react router DOM and then save that into our package.json. Next, once this finishes installing, I'm going to need to bring in this entire router here on this main page. So I'm going to bring in import browser router and route, which are two different libraries from React Router DOM. In our app, we're going to have basically two routes inside of our return. First things first, we're going to have all of this is going to be wrapped around with browser router. I'm going to indent all of this here. And close off the browser router. Next, I'm going to start removing some of this code right over here. So I'm going to get rid of, first things first, I'm going to get rid of this nav component. Actually, I don't want this like H1 to show up, but I want the nav to show up on every single page. Then I'm going to get rid of this giant article list. I'm going to add in two different routes. So again, we're on the main page. We have brought in the React Router DOM and the two libraries that we need into this particular file. You come down over here, it's rendering two things out to the screen, one thing out to the screen. Everything is wrapped with React Router, with browser router, which is a React Router DOM library. And we're creating two different routes. So whenever anybody makes a request, a GET request to slash, I'm going to take them to the home page component. Whenever anybody makes a request to slash articles slash a particular article ID, I'm going to take them to the article page. So I'm going to go back over here and take a look at my React app, and it's not loaded. So let's run npm start. All right, and then we see a bunch of warnings and different errors because of the code that we've copied over. Number one, it says article list is defined but never used on line 5 of app.js. Not an issue. We'll get rid of that for now. We're one warning down, and we have 2 different errors. So it says home page is not defined, and article page is also not defined. So if they're not defined inside of app.js, what 2 lines of code do I need to add in order to bring in this particular code? I've got to import. So tell me what to type.
Article or home page.
Home page and article page.
Import home page from. And where they're located. So I think it's pages.
Mm-hmm.
Slash homepage.js.
Yep. Homepage.js. Same thing over here with article page. All right, so I've done all of these things, and we have all of this stuff that shows up. Let's take a look at what's going on inside of homepage. So if you take a look inside of homepage here, wow, why is there so much room here? Okay, there we go. You can kind of see what we did a little bit earlier. We did it manually, but it's actually all here inside of the homepage. So we knew that an article list required the article list required that it passed down articles and a handle title click. And this handle title click looks a little bit different than what we had a little bit earlier. We just had a console log of just the ID. We're going to say to do. We're going to use React Router's history.push method to change the page to /articles/article ID. So it's the same thing as before, and we've actually done most of the heavy lifting already. So if since we're here on the home page, all of this stuff is loaded up already. Let's see if we can jump over to page /articles/1 just to see if we can see an article. We just have article page. This is kind of what we expect. So we've set up the pages correctly. Again, when anybody makes a request based off of app.js going to /articles/an article ID, I'm going to load up the component, the article page. Article page is found here. Nothing fancy. It just returns a div that says article page on there. Now, we've done most of the heavy lifting, even though we've kind of gone off script, but we've done most of the heavy lifting already. So an article list takes in a thing of articles. Okay, that's what we've got over here. It also has a handle title click, which just says, to do, I need to use React Router's history.push method to change the page. I don't know what that means. So Raymond, you did this yesterday, right? Well, what is history.push?
It was just a line of code that was on the README that was able to pull the article's ID.
A built-in method in the future.
Let's get rid of this. So we're going to get rid of the console log. And we just have this. Now, what this is before, remember, we just console. So let's go back to the way things were. This was what we had a little bit early. We just console logged.
Where are you getting article ID from? That's where I'm confused.
Sure. So let's start from the beginning. So the question was, where do I get article ID from? We start with app.js, and it loads up the home page component. So we go down one level, and we're inside the home page component. Inside the home page component, we're rendering out an article list component. The article list component has a handle title click, which is just going to console log the article ID. So at this point, article list requires an article ID, but doesn't know how to do anything without it. So article list is not in charge of actually getting the ID. So we'll go down one layer deeper. Inside of article list.js, we are continuing to pass down yet another article teaser. Now, what's happening here is on this handle title click, the value is this.props.handle title click, which goes up one level to this one right over here. When I actually click it, it's going to be inside of article teaser. So on the click here, so I pass it down from the top level, from app.js to homepage to article list to article teaser. And in article teaser, based off the event that I do, the clicking of this particular link, I'm actually going to execute this.props.handle title click with this.props.id. That ID number is passed in from the index here on the article list. So if I'm mapping through it, the index starts at 0 and goes up to whatever the length is -1. So I'm passing down the ID down to the article teaser so it has access to all of the IDs. And based on the clicking of it, I'm going to fire this off. This fires off to here, which fires off to here. And then at that point, I have my article ID. If that made any sense whatsoever.
Can you go back one more
to article list or app?
One more level, article list.
Okay.
So article list is just rendering all the articles, and it's allowing you to go ahead and the attribute of the index to be the ID. So when you click on that article, then that gives you the ID.
Yes.
And then that passes it like that. Okay.
Yes, that is good. That is correct.
But the article ID, could you name that anything? Like where is?
Right here? Yeah, I can name this poop.
I'm saying
And I can name this down here.
You have to change it.
This.props.poop.
But then how does that get passed to the article ID? How does it go from ID to article ID? In your I forgot what component it's in.
Here? Article ID. So again, app.js renders the homepage. Homepage has something called handle title click, and then it's going to get an article ID from somewhere. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to console log that article ID back out to the screen. So article list, like I'm expecting an article ID when somebody clicks something down the line, and I'm just going to grab it later. I'm just going to console log it out to the screen. So article list is not in charge of it. I mean, and this homepage is not in charge of it.
You know, but you can pass in a lot more. You can pass in more than one attribute there, right?
Yeah.
Like you can ask it to give you, you know, maybe the byline and everything.
Mm-hmm. For me, I just have one.
But does that have to say article ID in there?
Nope. You can name this anything you want. So, yep. And that's what makes this so difficult for a lot of people to understand. Go back over here. Again, we rendered the home page. The home page, when we visited app.js, it renders the home page. So I made a get request to the slash, renders the home page out to me. Inside the home page, I'm rendering out just an article list component. The article list component renders a bunch of article teasers. And then the article teaser just has basically an event handler that just puts something out to the screen. So if I click on this, here's my 0, my 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I can click on anything I want on the page, and the index is, I'm creating a whole bunch of different article teasers, right? An article list consists of many article teasers. Is that understood? Homepage renders one thing, article list. Article list returns a whole bunch of article teasers. Each individual teaser has its own unique identifier with an ID and a key. Article teaser over here, I actually probably don't even need props.id. I probably don't even need this ID number. I can just do this.props.key. So homepage renders an article list. An article list has many article teasers, and each one of those, oh crap, I don't like it. Key is not a prop. Trying to access it will return in an undefined, okay, whatever. I guess they are angry at me, and I need to pass it in as ID.
So, like, is React one of those things like Ruby, where it's like Rails, where you have to do it the Rails way, or it's not going to work?
The Rails way, you can do it many ways. Actually, I would argue the opposite. The Rails way is an opinionated way, but there's other ways to do it. So you can do it like with named paths. Remember, it was like root_path, or you can just say redirect to and then in quotations / That would be totally legitimate. React is very, very specific. They won't even run. Like the other one with Rails, you can do root path and it'll work. You can do redirect to the / and then it'll still work. This one won't work unless you're absolutely certain. All right, so as of right now, all I'm doing inside of the home page is I'm console logging out this thing to the page. Instead, I want to do this line of code. This.props.history.push/articles/article ID. Now, this particular thing is interesting. So this.props.history.push. So I don't know what that is. Let's take a look. This.props.history.push. Let's take a look at what that is. All right, I will send this out right now. Let me just get this out to everybody. But essentially what this.props.history gives you is that inside of React, inside the window, they can basically control where you're going to go next. So they push it to the, there's an array called history, and you're going to be pushing in like a route for it to go to, so that it automatically, based off of that action, it's going to automatically force you to go to this particular page. So now what we've got here, article ID is not defined. So now if all goes well, I can click on this. It will not actually take me to the hashtag, but instead it's going to push into the this.props.history/articles/this particular article ID. Before we were just clicking around, we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. So when I click this now, it'll take me to /articles/0. If I go back, this one will take me to another page. This.props.history.push. It's shoving in a URL that your window is immediately going to take you to. So /articles/5. And as of right now, you can kind of see, yeah, I mean, it just says article page. So that's the last thing that we need to fix up right now. An article page should render an article component and provide the necessary properties to the component.
Sports 5.
What's that? I actually disagree. I think this one is actually the easiest one because all of the code is already here. So I can get rid of this article. I don't think I'm using this.props.article anywhere. I can probably take it out and just put it in here for now. I'm just going to throw a bunch of useful code in the bottom. Looks like we probably don't need these two things anymore. And I can put it inside of here. So I'm actually going to create a real quick constructor. It's going to take in props. Let's put the props up. And I'm actually just going to do all this calculation inside of there. So instead of the random article index, I actually think that we can grab the, I think we can just do this.props.match.params.article ID. So based off of the URL, remember we used to do like params like business ID or something like that? We actually know the ID number of what we're trying to do. So we're going to do news, this.props.match.params.article ID, and then we have the actual article itself. Then I can just do this.state equals article, and then this particular article is going to have all of this code inside of there. Based off of that, I can just feed it into the article directly, and I think everything else should just work. So let's just create a div. We're going to create an article. We're just going to take an ID equal to props.id and so on and so forth. So I'm going to continue down the road here. Hopefully this will work. Otherwise, it will be embarrassing.
Right now, your article page is the parent of article. That all works.
Repeat that one more time.
Right now, your article page is a parent of the article component.
Kind of. It's not really a parent. It's just it's one component that's calling another component. Similarly, like think about like any site that's huge, like a lot of stuff is being loaded. You can think of it as one giant page with many small components on the page. We got image, this props.image. And we have created date equals props.created date. Realize that it's not props. This.state.article. Hopefully this works. Let's see. No. Okay. Random article index is not defined on article page. Oh, can't I just do article? Oh, wait, why don't I just do article equals this? Would that clean it up a little bit? That works. Let's not state that. Work. All right, looks like that works pretty well for me. If I go back to my main page here, if I click on this, everything is showing up the way that I expect. So I have my title, my created date, my byline. This I'm missing my images. My images have disappeared.
Oh yeah, you weren't like I was having some issues with the image because it's so deep inside of the JSON.
Yeah, let's take a look. So it looks like I'm passing in this.state.article.image. So if I take a look at, let's just console log this.state.article. Once we're trying to render this out to the screen, let's just see what this.state.article is. So I'm going to click on this first one here, and there is a giant JSON object. Now, if I take a look inside of here, doesn't look like there's an image on here. Like something changed on the back end, which is totally to be expected. What's that?
It's in multimedia.
It's probably in multimedia. All right, so we go multimedia, and it looks like that's an array. So maybe we'll just do this.state.article.multimedia. We'll take the first one, and inside the first one, no, stop that. Multimedia, first one, it looks like there's a URL. Okay, maybe I'll just do .url. And there's that picture that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So we go back to the main page. We have localhost 3000. I can click on this. It'll take me to a new number, and it'll have everything that we expect inside of here. Finally, there's two things I want to refactor real fast. One is article/0 is not a thing. It's not a thing. Like your ID numbers do not start at 0. Your ID numbers start at 1. So I want to change this so that this reads 1, but still goes back to this original one right here. So where do I start?
Why is it working if you hard-coded 0 multimedia?
So if you take a look, let's go back over here. The question was like the multimedia thing. So if you take a look inside of this is the news thing that I have. Like
because 0 is part of.
0 is part of, because multimedia is an array. So I have an object with the key of multimedia, and the value is going to be an array of 5 things. That 5th thing is going to be just this giant object, and one of those giant objects inside of there has a URL. So I'm just grabbing the first one. So let's go back. I want to fix this so that this doesn't say /articles/0. I don't like that. I'm going to start here. Do you see anything that would be useful to change in homepage.js?
No.
No? Really?
Yeah, you could say whatever you pass in as article ID, you can just add 1 to it.
Yep. All right, so let's go back, and if I go to, let's go back to my homepage. All right, click this one. It takes me to articles/1. So it doesn't, I mean, it still starts at 0, but now articles/1 is the wrong one. Like I wanted articles/1 to actually be this guy. So I do agree. Aaron is correct on this one. We do need to add 1 to here. So once we push it in, we kind of run down the list. So we go to article list over here, and the index is probably going to stay the same as that. The key is going to stay the same as index, really? Let's do +1 here.
Can you do an offset with map?
What's that? No. Map definitely goes in order. Article teaser. And article page, I think this is -1. Find out. So if I go back to all of my articles now, articles/0 should give me nothing because that doesn't exist inside. I mean, that based on the calculations that I did, it doesn't exist. And I click going home to Fallujah. Oh God, what happened? Oh no. I think I did 1 too many. I don't think I think that's it. Next page. Going home to Fallujah /1. Today in Mosul /2. Breaking up with the family is a way to break up with the mob /3. So all I did was I added +1 to what's showing up in the URL, and based off of what I find in the URL, I subtract 1. Just small little cute little calculations that I'm doing. Lastly, I want to change article teaser. I mean article homepage, article list, where is it? Yeah, I can refactor this a lot because I'm using this .state.article quite a bit, and it really sucks to type the whole time. So how would you change that?
You can put a let and render.
Yep.
Let article equal this.state.article.
You got it. Just cleaned up a whole bunch of code by adding this one tiny little line. If everything still works, we'll be happy about it. /1, cool. /2, everything works. Last thing of today, this nav bar, disgusting. I don't like it at all. Let's fix it. So we're going to use this particular resource, and we're going to make this look a little bit nicer. Oops, that just says this resource. Copy link. All right, I want to find the documentation for React Navbar. It looks like I can just change a whole bunch of things over here. So I want it to look more or less like this. So I'm just going to grab all of this code, and I'm going to go into my app.js and fix up my app nav, what I've got here. So instead, I'm just going to throw everything inside of here to get started, and then maybe I can just fix this up a little bit later. So I'm going to, no, let's just get rid of this for now. See what happens. Boom, everything blows up. Okay, so number 1, it says news is defined but never used. App nav is defined but never used. All right, so I'll get rid of news for now. Looks like I'm not using it here. And then everything is broken. It says navbar is not defined, nav is not defined, nav item, nav dropdown, and menu item is also not defined. So I probably don't need nav dropdown and menu item, so I can probably get rid of some of this code here. Nav dropdown, this goes away. It looks like I'm using navbar, navbar.header, navbar.brand, nav item, and nav. These are all things that are coming in from React Bootstrap. I'm just going to do import all of these things. Oh God. Navbar, nav, and nav item. Okay, let's bring all of those in. Import navbar, nav, and nav item. From, it's React Bootstrap, if I'm not mistaken. See if this shows up. All right, and we have a nice looking bar up top, and right now it just doesn't do anything. So I want to iterate. I want to change this to, we'll just call this like news site. React, we'll just call this news site. And inside of here, I want to iterate over each one of these particular nav items and put it in its place. So I can get rid of all of these and probably create a method out here. So we'll just call this let nav items equal, it looks like we have to make this a function. Similarly to how we did this thing. So we'll just grab this code and put it in its place. I'm going to do this dot state dot nav items map. Each one is going to be a nav item and an index. I'm going to return not an article teaser this time, instead a nav item. Item looks like it takes in an event key. I don't know what that is, but that's okay. Event key. I'll just have this as index. Value.
You don't have an equal one after the value. Why is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's just a typo. All right, so something broke. It says unexpected token everything's perfect. There it is. So I created myself a navbar using React Bootstrap, where I saw that there was a pattern here of creating a bunch of different nav items. Instead of having everything here and hard-coded, I created a nav items like array, and I'm returning that array because it's I think it's just nav items. If I had more time, because I want to give you guys some time to kind of go back and take a look at your code as well. If I had more time, I probably would not do all of this code, this navbar code here. I'd probably put it inside of appnav rather than having everything inside of here. Right now, appnav is not being used at all. So this is not exactly what I want to have happen with it. I would put all of this code inside of appnav. So then I would just render appnav out. Actually, just for completion's sake. I'll try to do this as fast as I can. Cool. I think this does it. Let's find out. Don't be angry with me. Oh, I forgot the equal sign. Copy and paste issues. Where is my value? Anyone see it? Yeah.
There's-
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Get rid of all of this code here. Put this in its place. Let nav items equal this dot props dot nav items dot map. Return nav item. Then key value, and I think that does it. There it is. So if all goes well, I can click on this, and it doesn't do anything. Each event should have a unique key, so it looks like I just need a key here. This warning will go away at this point. Everything looks clean. If I click on this, it's not working. Let's take a look why that is. Oh, it's because I got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. There it is. And then on click, I'll take this. Not read property nav items of null. Stop props. Each child in the array should have a unique key. And new site 2 is finished except for this grossness. If I click this, it'll say home. Oh gosh, this is not a function. Interesting. Well, we can figure that out at a later point. But the idea behind it is I don't want a whole bunch of, like in app.js, because I was doing just so many calculations all at one point, I want to actually put it inside of its own individual component, have its own class take care of it so that I only have one place to fix it rather than 4 different places to fix it. That makes sense? Single responsibility goes everywhere.